From Washington, this is VOA News. Coming up, unrest in eastern Ukraine. Transcript showing confusion over South Korean ferry evacuation. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Norman. Russia says it is outraged by a deadly shootout in eastern Ukraine that breached an Easter truce. Officials say a shootout at a checkpoint manned by pro-Russian separatists left at least 2 people dead near the town of Slavyansk, which is under the control of pro-Russian militants. VOA's Michael Bowman has more.
Russian and Ukrainian officials traded accusations of responsibility for the shootout and the worsening chaos engulfing eastern Ukraine. Ukrainian Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk spoke on NBC's Meet the Press television program broadcast in the United States.
President Putin has a dream to restore the Soviet Union. And every day he goes further and further. And God knows where is the final destination.
The Prime Minister demanded Moscow adopt a hands-off policy towards his country.
They have their own country. We have our own country.
Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
Divers are continuing to pull bodies from the sunken South Korean ferry as authorities widen their inquiry and release transcripts capturing the confusion at the time that the ship capsized last week. Recovery operation involving hundreds of divers, ships, and aircraft brought the total death toll to 58 on Sunday, with 246 still unaccounted for. Most of the victims were high school students. Marine traffic control transcripts released on Sunday show that the crew was hesitant to order passengers to abandon ship. The cabinet has said he has not ordered an immediate evacuation because he feared the passengers would be in danger from strong currents in the cold water. The captain was one of the first to leave the ferry. There were 174 known survivors so far, no one rescued since last Wednesday. Malaysia Airlines says a flight with 166 people aboard made a safe emergency landing after experiencing a problem with its landing gear. That flight, carrying 159 passengers and 7 crew members, was bound for Bangalore, India, when it was turned back toward the airport at Kuala Lumpur. Last month, the Malaysian Airlines flight vanished during a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing in circumstances that have yet to be fully explained. Searchers are still looking for any wreckage from the plane in the Indian Ocean. There were 239 people aboard. Drone airstrikes targeting suspected al-Qaeda training camps in the rugged mountainous region in southern Yemen have killed more than 30 militants over 2 days. Yemeni security officials say at least 25 militants were killed Sunday and 10 and 3 civilians were killed on Saturday. Officials did not identify who carried out the attacks. Christians around the world celebrated Easter on Sunday. Pope Francis spoke to thousands of people gathered in St. Peter's Square. He prayed for peace in Ukraine and Syria, and he celebrated Easter Mass at the steps of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. And Robert Berger attended Easter services in Jerusalem.
Jesus conquered the grave.
Easter dawned in Jerusalem with a sunrise service at the Garden Tomb. The faithful sang hymns and proclaimed that Jesus is risen. Pilgrims came from all over the world, including Jay Raxon from the U.S. state of Iowa.
Well, there's nothing really quite like it to celebrate Easter Sunday morning at the Garden Tomb.
A few hours later, Easter Mass was celebrated at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Priests and monks in festive robes chanted the Easter liturgy as a fragrant cloud of incense rose above the ancient stone tomb, which Christians believe is the very place where Jesus rose from the dead. Robert Berger for VOA News, Jerusalem.
Famous Pakistani television talk show host was shot in the latest wave of attacks on journalists in the country. Hamid Mir, a host for the private television channel Geo, was wounded in the attack in Karachi on Saturday, but is expected to survive. Police say he suffered at least 3 gunshot wounds. Hamid Mir was spoken out in the last against injustices and atrocities against Pakistani people and condemned an attack against media personnel in Karachi earlier this year. You can get more news by going to our website at voanews.com. I'm Steve Norman, VOA News in Washington.